Good morning, great souls. Welcome to Sunday morning meditation. Before our satsang this morning with Jyotish and Devi, Nayaswamis Jyotish and Devi, the worldwide directors of Ananda worldwide. They'll be joining us at 10 o'clock. So we'll meditate until about 9:55 this morning, and then we'll welcome them. So let's begin this meditation with the prayer. Divine Mother, Heavenly Father, friend, beloved God, great masters of self-realization, Jesus Christ, Babaji Krishna, Lady Mahashaya, Swami Sri Yukteswar, Beloved Guru, Paramahansa Yogananda, saints of all religions, we humbly bow before you all and invite your presence in our meditation this morning. Expand our awareness into your infinite awareness. Still our minds. Open our hearts that we may perceive your divine presence as divine light, as ever expanding calmness, as your bliss. We are your children. Guide our practices. Inspire us every moment of our lives. Om Shanti, Shanti, Shanti. Guru Brahma, Guru Vishnu, Guru Deva Maheshwara, Guru Sakshat Param Brahma, Tasmai Shri Guruve Namaha. Brahma Now let's take a double breath and tense our body. Tense with joy and willingness. Exhale, double breath. Relax completely. Again, double breath. With the spiritual eye, tense the body. Exhale. Relax. Feel the energy starting to flow from the. One last time, double breath. Gaze upward, tense with joy. Exhale. Now elongate the spine from the base to the top of the head. Feel the energy withdrawing from the periphery of the body into your center, into your spine, your energy center. Gazing upward at the spiritual eye throughout our practices this morning. Feel the energy flow through your center. Magnetizing the spine in your practices, in your Kriya, in your Hong Sa. Draw the presence of the masters, of Divine Mother with you during this meditation. Ask them to guide you from the inside. And set the intention to dive deep into their presence, into the stillness. Let's meditate. Let's end our meditation with healing prayers, bringing to mind those we would like to pray for, visualizing them clearly at the point between the eyebrows. Visualize them filled with Divine Mother's healing light, her energy. Expand that light to include our friends and loved ones, protected and guided by divine light. Include our Guru Bhais here in India and all over the world. The divine light flow through them, increasing the light and infinite peace on the planet. And let's visualize our world enveloped in Divine Mother's healing power, her peace, her divine healing light. Uplifting and blessing all souls everywhere. And let's pray Yogananda's healing prayer together. Divine Mother, thou art omnipresent. Thou art in all these thy children. Manifest thy healing presence in all these bodies, minds, and souls. Rubbing our hands together, sending Divine Mother's healing light through our palms, through our spiritual eye, chanting Om 3 times. Om. Om Shanti, Shanti, Shanti. And in approximately 5 minutes, we'll begin our satsang with Nayaswamis Jyotish and Devi. Please stay here and see you in 5 minutes. Joy to you.
No. There we go.
Did you bring the questions?
No. You want me to get them? I don't know
Yeah.
where they're on your printer. I'm not sure.
I don't know what they are now.
It's all right. We don't.
Yeah, but each question had several.
Well, sure, they'll ask
sub-questions.
them. They'll ask us. Bring it a little closer to us and see what happens.
But I'm trying to get us balanced.
Yeah, that's not balanced.
Well, look where our heads are.
Okay. So they're doing a meditation
Right.
until 8:30.
Hello, Jyotish and Devi. Lovely to see you. Thank you for joining us. The others have not joined yet. They will in just a moment. They can't hear me. They can't hear us. Okay, testing now to see. Yeah,
I think everybody can
Jyotish and
hear us.
Devi cannot hear us.
Everybody can hear us.
I don't hear. That's the microphone.
Ah, I can hear you, Jyotish. Hi, Devi. Can you hear us?
No,
She can't. They can't hear us.
yeah, they'll need to be
Jyotish and Devi, you cannot hear us?
Yeah, everyone else can hear.
Everyone can hear us. Jyotish and Devi, can you hear us?
They're using the news without networks.
Good morning, everyone. We're working on the sound with Nayaswamis Jyotish and Devi. Can you hear us?
No.
No. So what can we say to them? Should I call them on WhatsApp or something? Or
Yeah, put it up as high as we can.
That's our phone.
oh no. Okay, all right. No, that's I was going to call you, but we can't hear. We can hear you, but you can't hear us.
Can't hear her.
Hmm.
I know.
Yeah.
She's the person who's.
Our phone, something was ringing.
Oh,
So how about audio? Is your audio up? Your audio? Can you just type there? Is your audio on?
I don't know if you can hear us. Can you hear us?
Yes. Yes.
Yes.
we
Yes.
can't hear
Yeah,
you.
we can't hear you, but
Yeah.
you're able to hear us. So
Ah.
As if
So-
for us, at least you're muted.
Yeah, we're not muted. Everyone else can hear us.
The attendees can hear both of us.
Yes, yes. Okay, well,
But
You
we've
know,
got such
let
wonderful
me go
things
print up
to
the
share.
questions that you were going to
Okay.
ask us, and then
Okay.
we can go from there.
okay.
I wonder if it would help if I logged off and logged back on.
Yes, yes,
Okay,
yes, we
I'm
think
going
so.
to do that.
Okay. Nice to see you all, or nice to be with you all. We actually can't see you.
But you can see us, and you'll be able to see Nayaswamis Jyotish and Devi. For those who don't know us, I am Keshava, my wife Daya, and we're the directors of Ananda Sangha, Delhi.
So nice to be with you all. And what a joy and privilege to be with Nayaswamis Jyotish and Devi. I think someone mentioned to us that they may have a new technical setup this morning, so that might have something to do with this.
And we can hear them, and that's the main thing. They're just having a bit of difficulty hearing us.
Several of many of our Delhi members had submitted questions about creativity to us. So we sort of consolidated them and sent them to Nayaswami Jyotish and Devi. So that's what she's printing right now. So if nothing else, they will go through the written questions and answer them. So be wonderful. We'll still have so much inspiration from them about the topic of creativity. So they went off to log back on.
And this morning session is a part Jyotish and Devi have graciously set aside one Sunday a month to share in these informal conversations with devotees in India. And so we're very happy that they're able to do that and share in this way. As we said, Jyotish and Devi are the spiritual directors of Ananda Sangha worldwide. And they're also my personal friends and Daya's personal friends, but mine since almost 50 years when I first joined Ananda Sangha and I met the two
Hello.
of them and also Swamiji.
Can you hear us?
Cannot
We
hear us.
can't hear
Okay.
you.
We can't hear you.
Well,
So
let's just go on. I don't
Okay.
know what else we can do.
Okay.
So
Okay.
we have the questions that
Okay.
everyone sent.
And And first, perhaps Jyotish and Devi, you could lead us in a prayer.
Prayer.
I think he's saying, will we do a prayer?
okay. Okay. Heavenly Father, Divine Mother, friend, beloved God, great masters, Jesus Christ, Babaji Krishna, Lahiri Mahashaya, Swami Sri Yukteswar, beloved Guru, Paramahansa Yogananda Ji, saints of all religions, we humbly bow to you all. Bless us with thy presence, with thy grace. Show us how to be creative while still being in tune with thee, to attune our will with thy great cosmic will. Om Shanti, Shanti, Shanti.
Let me say for our audience, our topic this morning is the importance of creativity. And a number of devotees here in Delhi have asked questions on this important and often misunderstood topic. And we've asked Jyotish and Devi if they would address several of those questions. And so Jyotish and Devi, please.
This is a very interesting and important subject tonight about creativity, because there's a very delicate balance actually in life, to kind of give a broader view of things. Master's teaching said that in creation, the animal kingdom, before that, the plant kingdom, even before that, minerals, all have consciousness. But that consciousness, during that long evolution of awareness, is basically all dictated by outer circumstances. As the consciousness grows more self-aware, then there's some degree of choice, but not really freedom of will, not in the way that we think of it. A master said that when we come into the birth as a human being, then we have a nervous system that is advanced enough. And he's not talking only about the physical nervous system, our astral nervous system, our spiritual nervous system, one might say, is advanced enough so that we can, in fact, from that state of a human birth, realize our unity with God, whereas an animal can't achieve that goal, even a more advanced animal. So what that unique birth as a human being has with it is the gift and the curse of free will. So we can make now decisions, and think of all of evolution up until this point being kind of like on a conveyor belt or an escalator that is only going in one direction. It's going gradually up. But now in human birth, we get off the escalator and we get on a staircase. And in that staircase, we can choose to ascend, or we can choose by certain habitual patterns that we might have had from the past, we can choose to descend. And so that free will of moving up or moving down is basically unique to mankind. Now, it has to be that way because essentially it's all spirit. There's only one player in all of this, and that's God. God is playing hide and seek with God. And so why create a creation where there's no freedom of choice about whether to unite with God or to stay ununited with God? So that's the essential spiritual choice that we all have. Do we want to reunite with God, or do we want to play as a separate entity in his creation a little longer? That's the essential movement of free will. Now, it takes thousands, millions of different forms, but that's the essential thing going on. So then when you come to creativity, that's simply something, part of the universal plan is that we have the right to be creative. Let's just simply define creativity as doing things in different ways, in new ways. So for all of us, every day we can do things in new ways. To us, we can be creative. So it isn't confined to the arts and all of that. It's simply that choice of doing things in new ways. And so the question, if you combine these two, do we want to move toward God, or do we want to continue our separation? Then you ask about creativity. Do we want to use our creativity in such a way that moves us toward union with God, or do we want to use it in such a way that affirms the ego or affirms our separate state? So it's a very, very interesting question and area.
Yeah, I think it's so important because very often new people on the path say, well, I want to do it my way, or can't we do it in a slightly different way? And Swami Kriyananda, for all his extraordinary creativity, was very orthodox in how, very conservative in how he approached the teachings, in how he taught them, the techniques, everything that Master gave us. But at the same time, by the time we all met him, which was well, I would say first generation I'm speaking, he was in his mid-40s, and he'd been a disciple for 20 plus years. And by that time, Master had infused him with certain missions to help fulfill Master's mission, one might say. And part of those were communities, writing, all these things. And what he was doing was to, through his attunement, to help express Master's teachings in such a way that it furthered his spiritual development. So there's two important points we're bringing up here. One is and Master spoke a lot about the person of initiative. And that's another way to think about creativity. It isn't just, well, I paint or I draw or I sing or I dance, but it's using your free will or initiative and bringing it into everything that you do. But then the other thing is, how do we use that so that we're letting God flow through us? Because, as I say, very often new people who come to our ashram, come to the community, say, oh, well, I want to do this project or that project. But, and sometimes they feel a little, I know, stymied, a little, when we don't enthusiastically support them, a little shut down. But we can see that's not going to take them in the direction of continued attunement, deepening attunement. And when we're devotees, when we're seriously on the spiritual path, that's the most important thing to consider, is everything or anything that I do, let me look at it from the perspective of, is this bringing me deeper into attunement with my guru? So how do we combine that? We have a lot of really nice questions that people from the Delhi Sangha have submitted, Panchil. And so we'll go on to those, but really the question, this whole issue of creativity and spirituality is really very central to our union with God. It isn't just something, a light little thing, how you approach mundane things in your life. It's that, but it's so much more. So
I just want to say that we have the chat box up. So if you have a question that you would like to ask or a follow-up question, just type it into the chat box and we'll see it.
okay, so we'll just go on. Well, to touch a little bit more on the first question that you submitted to us, what is true creativity and where does it come from? Well, Jyotish alluded to that. Do you want to?
Yeah, you know, Ramakrishna described spiritual progress like peeling an onion. So there are layers and layers and layers until finally the last layer, you peel it off and there's nothing left of the onion. Using that as an analogy to spiritual growth, where you peel off layers, or one might call them koshas or veils of delusion. But at the end of the process, there's only God. So where does creativity come from? There's only one thing in all the universe, and that's God. And in a very interesting way, God is not only creating a delusion that makes things seem separate, makes his own consciousness seem separate. Master said that when we dream at night, we do the same thing. We take one consciousness and we create many characters in a dream. And so God is creating all of the characters. So one could ask the question, where does creativity, if you have a dream character and that dream character is creating something, where does that creativity come from? Well, it seems like it comes from the dream character's consciousness, But in fact, it comes from your consciousness that is enacting itself in the role of that dream character. And so God is playing each of our characters a part in his great drama. And so it seems like creativity arises out of our own thoughts and out of our own mind. But in fact, it arises always, as all things do, from the divine source, and then kind of goes through like a prism effect that splits it to make it look like it's a multiplicity, but it's always just a unity. But for us, we don't dwell in that unity. So we have to accept the fact that because we still live in a consciousness of duality, then it's best for us to say, well, creativity comes from me, but it comes from me wanting to attune my free will with the will of God. So I hope that's clear. It's quite a subtle point here.
And also, what is the source of creativity? Well, you know, in our prayers, God is often addressed as my creator. And the ultimate source of creativity is the cosmic consciousness, is the consciousness of God. And everything, I invite everyone who's with us or listening to this at a later time, try to see God's creativity every day. I mean, in everything. Like if you're cutting open a banana, look at the incredible color, the peel and the texture. And I mean, what a remarkable thing, just as simple as a banana. Or, looking at, it says in the Gita, even a leaf, if offered with devotion, sometimes you'll just find the most beautiful leaf. Today, I was walking with a friend of mine, and we were out in a wooded area, and we came to a tree stump that had been cut off, a tree that had been cut down, and we were looking at the rings on the tree. And she was pointing out to me all different aspects. The inner part is dead wood, and that's what keeps the tree strong and solid. And then these rings, you can see the amount of rain each year. And it was just you can see the divine brilliance and creativity and originality in every little thing you look at, a little bird or an ant, So Swami Kriyananda would say, when you go for a walk, feel like you're sharing everything with God. Look how those little ants are running to get the food. Isn't that marvelous? Or look at that little bird sitting on the tree, how beautiful that colored feathers are. So the more you can tune into the creativity, the source behind it all, the more you'll express that. I was just remembering some years ago, the Ananda High School here at Ananda Village, every year would take a trip with the students, and we go and spend 2 weeks at an orphanage in Mexico. And this was a very, very poor area, and there were several hundred children in this orphanage, and just not very many staff that took care of them. But but the children were quite happy. I was surprised. But one day we would help, the adults would help in the kitchen prepare the meals. And the meals were pretty much rice and beans, or just beans and tortillas. This was Mexico. And they would cook these huge vats of beans. And there was a very old lady who was the cook. And one day she was putting out this huge bowl of beans, but I noticed she just took a little sprig of an herb and she stuck it in the middle. And I thought, she's trying to do something original there. And so there's nothing in life that we can't bring that kind of creativity into. So,
Yeah, the next question is, can creativity help me with my spiritual growth? Well, quite obviously it can. We have to use creativity in our spiritual endeavors, but there's a delicate balance here, because the guru comes uniquely for each of us. I mean, one guru may be the guru for many, many thousands, even millions of people. But nonetheless, from our relationship, the guru that's a unique relationship. And so we want to be creative in our spiritual life, but we also have to understand that the guru understands our spiritual needs and the spiritual teachings much better than we do. And so in the techniques that we do, we need to be very, very orthodox and not think, well, gee, Yogananda lived 100 years ago and he wasn't really with the modern world. And so I'm going to change the way Kriya is practiced if I'm a Kriyaban. Well, that just leads us down the road of deterioration. So with techniques, we need to be very orthodox in following what the guru gave us. But how we approach our spirituality can be endlessly creative. Master gave us so many different things. Chants, we have hundreds of chants we can sing. We can sing different chants. We can sing them in a different way. We can sing them with a different feeling of vibration. So within a kind of orthodoxy, we can have a lot of creativity. But if we begin to say, well, the guru didn't really understand the modern age, these teachings are timeless. And so we can't reinvent the teachings, but we can reinvent the way and be creative in how we approach and how we apply those teachings. So there needs to be that balance between the two.
And another way we can define creativity is intuition, to intuitively try to draw this, as we know, as the spiritual eye or Kutastha Chaitanya. It's the seat of spiritual awareness, of super consciousness, but it's also the seat of intuitive perception. And so the more we need to bring an intuitive approach to our meditation. If it becomes very mechanical, okay, for the first 50 minutes, I do Hang Sa, then I do this, then I do that. And if you just do it very linearly every day, day after day, week after week, what will happen? Isn't it so that you eventually become a little bored or becomes a little dry? You need, and I'm saying this from having meditated for a number of years, you need to form an intuitive, creative approach to each of the techniques, not changing them, but doing them from the inside, feeling what really is the reason for Hong So. What am I supposed to be experiencing? Not just doing it mentally, but doing it with self-offering. That's another way to think of creativity, is offering who you are into the flow of a higher consciousness. And so as you approach your sadhana and all of the techniques, and you can, as we all know, you can read the autobiography and it can be words on a page, or you can do it with real openness and really trying to intuitively align yourself with what Master has written, and it'll be an entirely different experience. You'll feel him speaking to you. And so it is with meditation techniques. If you really do them with intuitive, creative self-offering, doors will open for you in your meditation, and you'll, oh my goodness, I didn't know that's what was supposed to happen. This is what I've heard talk about, but now I see it's happening. So it's so important. And if you shut off that flow inwardly in your sadhana or outwardly in your daily life, it will just slow down your spiritual progress, and even to the point where, maybe you'll get discouraged and won't be so committed to it.
There's, creativity can help us spiritually in many ways that we don't think of as directly in our sadhana. So for instance, as Devi mentioned, real creativity comes through intuition. And so anything that will develop our intuition will help us. If we're too mental, that mental aspect begins to limit the possibilities, because the mind basically works by observing what has been and what it sees, and making connections between those things. Intuition gets outside of that whole dynamic. Master Yogananda Ji dedicated the autobiography of a yogi to Luther Burbank, who was a botanist. Now, I don't know that Luther Burbank started out meditating. He did later. He got Kriya and practiced it. But his relationship was by intuitively working with the natural world, by deeply observing, by tuning into that natural world. Another botanist said, everything in nature will speak to you if you love it enough. Well, Burbank, it was as if he loved nature enough, so he was highly developed intuitively. And then when Master met him, he taught him the techniques, but he dedicated his book to Luther Burbank, an American saint. And it wasn't because of Burbank's practice of meditation. It was through his deep attunement with God in the form of plants, especially. And when I started painting, Swami Kriyananda really encouraged me. And he said, it will be good for you. It will help you develop your intuition. And so here he was saying, so sadhana is, one might say, the techniques or the practices we do, but it isn't the result. The result is to have greater attunement, greater awareness, greater perception. Someone asked what habits can boost creativity and what reduce them. Habits that boost them are, as David was saying, being very aware of everything you're doing and doing it in new ways, just kind of going through life in a rote, same old way, same schedule, same place, same time. That reduces your creativity. So there are many things outside of sadhana that can help increase our creativity.
And again, Swami Kriyananda was such a man of incredible creative energy. And we all know his output of music and writing and lecturing and so forth. But I think what made everything he did so powerful was that it always came from his center. It wasn't like, oh, I've got to. In fact, he spoke once of about a ballet, a modern choreographed ballet that he had gone to see, and no movement was, it was a new style of choreography. Every movement was supposed to, no repetition, knowing going back to back patterns, but everyone was supposed to be an innovation of the last one. And he said it was very unpleasant to watch because it wasn't returning to a point of centeredness. And that's what you feel in Swami Kriyananda's music, in his writing, in his lecturing. He would start from a point of centeredness, and then he would improvise, and he would go off into different ideas of science or history or literature, but then he would always come back to that centered awareness in the spine. And it made it, whatever he was talking about, it was so uplifting and so centering. And so creativity, again, if we think out of intuition, but also coming from a place of centeredness that is born of meditation and drawing from the guru. So it's it's really a fascinating subject, and we could go on quite at length about it. But I think just to remember that we should try to see the reflection of the divine spark of creativity in everything around us, and to, from our own center in God, to implant that spark of divine creativity in everything we do, everything.
There's another question. Isn't creativity a distraction on the spiritual path? Well, it certainly can be. You know, it can get, if creativity is used essentially in the wrong way, it can be both a distraction and a detriment on the spiritual path. So if your creativity is done in such a way as Devi said, returning to the center, but you also should return to higher values. So there should be direction to your creativity. So if your creativity is just doing something in a new way because it hasn't been done before, and there's no direction to it, it will probably, because we come carrying a long tail of, one might say, past experiences from former incarnations, it will probably begin to deteriorate a little bit. So if you see, I don't know, a musician or an artist that wants always to have their creativity be done in such a way that it is basically, look at me, look at how new I am, look at how I can break all the rules, look at how that kind of creativity can take us away from our center and away from God. And by and large, people who are a little bit more mature look at that creative pattern and they say, well, it's the creative, it's an immature creativity, type of creativity. You see it in some very popular social media people. You know, it's like, how can we shock the world this week? Well, that can be a deterioration on the spiritual path. So our creativity, in order not to be a distraction, should be attempting to align with God and the gurus. And so it just, even mentally, if we're musicians and we're playing a piece that is not necessarily spiritual, but we're playing this in such a way that we want to please the higher aspect of people, then that's attuned creativity. We were talking with one of our musicians the other day, and he was saying how he always meditates before he sings a song or does a performance. And if it's Swami's music, he asks Swami to sing through him. And so his creativity is how to bring out this melody or this song in the best possible way. But see, because he's trying to channel something higher, it reduces his ego, cleans out his ego, where another person, if they're trying to show off their voice, increases their ego. One time we were watching a movie that had a performance of Beethoven's Ninth Symphony, and it had different choral pieces in it. And this baritone came up and he was singing with great gusto and great presence. And there was a young boy about 6 years old, and he leaned over and he said, "Mommy, is he trying to win?" And so you see that in some kinds of artistic expression, that it's about the ego. It isn't. So if it's about the ego, it can be both a distraction and a detriment. But if it's channeling God, channeling higher consciousness, then creativity, whether it's in sadhana or not in sadhana, can be very, very helpful.
So I see Lata has asked a question, and I'm going to go over to that. First of all, namaste, Lata. She says, I get a lot of ideas in meditation, creative ideas, but I'm not sure which ones to follow up on. Well, that's a good question, because I think that happens to all of us. And I think what you do then is, what I do then is ask Master, okay, here's 3 different things I could do. Which one really is your will? How can, and then you hold them all up and you try to feel what is what really will bring you along further. And another thing to balance as well is the idealism and practicality. So Swami was, again, we keep using him as an example, tremendous creativity, but always grounded ultimately in practicality. And where, this may be a great idea, but can we really pull it off? Do we have the manpower? Do we have the money? Do we have the time? All these different things. And, if you don't want to just succumb and say, oh, well, we can't do it. But, if it feels like there's a possibility, ask masters, is this a good creative expression that will help me get more in tune with you, that I really can pull off? And we don't always succeed. I mean, many of the projects we started at Ananda, we weren't able to pull off. But here we are today, more than 50 years into the project of Ananda, and we're, growing stronger than ever. So it's very important when creative ideas come, to use discernment and ask for inner guidance to know which ones to follow.
We read, I'm not suggesting this is your prime way of deciding, but we read a rather humorous poem, the essence of which was, when I can't decide between two options, I flip a coin, and while the coin is in the air spinning, it suddenly occurs to me what I want to do. And so being forced all of a sudden to make a choice sometimes will reveal what you rather intuitively feel is the right choice in that situation.
Okay, other questions? Let's try, how can I bring creativity into business? For instance, into decision-making at work, into working with others. I want to read something. This is from Swami Kriyananda's Affirmations for Self-Healing. And it's actually the affirmation that will, maybe you already did it. We'll be doing it tomorrow because we're Saturday night still. But this topic is work. And it seemed too good not to share. Work should be done with a creative attitude, never for the sake of selfish gain, but for the chance it gives us to help create a better world. Those who work with the thought of pay live in the future. They lose the habit of living here and now, where alone true happiness can be found. Work should always be done as well as possible, not out of self-conceit, but in gratitude for the free gift of life, of sunshine, of water, of air, and in gratitude simply for our God-given power to be useful to our fellow men. And the affirmation is, I will do my work thinking of thee, Lord. I offer to thee the very best that is in me. So that answers a lot of our questions right there. Creativity and work should be done with the thought of service, not self-gain. Creativity and work, and in all aspects of life, should be offering the very best within us and to a higher power. And within that definition, we can be extremely creative. When you look at, we knew someone who met the man in Germany who developed the Pfizer vaccine for COVID-19, and they were consulting him on something else. And they said, and he spent a lot of time with them, and they said, can we pay you for your time? And he said, oh no. He said, I'm just happy to serve mankind. I'm happy to serve other people. And this is the man who developed the COVID virus vaccine. So that's a beautiful example of, he wasn't doing it for money. He wasn't doing it for fame. He was offering his skills as a medical researcher, as a very intelligent man, into service, offering the best he had into service for humanity. And I think those are good guidelines to bring creativity into the workplace. So Do you want to pick up something?
Yeah, I just wanted to see.
There's something from our dear friend Kartikeyan.
Yes.
And thank you for sharing the teachings of Master and Swamiji. Yes,
Yes.
when will we meet you in India? That is the big question, Shri. And we hope this year, but we will just see.
Yeah, we'll see whether we hope and expect to be vaccinated within the next week or two. And then we'll see what the result is. We've been keeping up on news of, the decrease of and opening up of India. So we're watching everything carefully. We hope to come this fall again, and we'll just see what Divine Mother allows us to do.
Okay, so
As a householder, I live a routine, rather mundane life. Are there activities or exercises that could bring more creativity into those monotonous daily tasks? Well, certainly there are. All of us have a certain amount of routine that is imposed upon us that we don't have any choice about. We have to go to work at a certain time when that's allowed, or we have housework to do. We have certain obligatory tasks, but we can do each of those things all day long with a sense of creativity and a sense of fun and enjoyment. Davy and I, we've been married, it's going on nearly 50 years now. We enjoy kind of entertaining each other, even in by something that we'll say. We won't say it directly. We'll make a kind of an obscure reference to something that happened before, something, a movie line that we might have seen. So, and then the other person has to figure out, what are they trying to tell me now? And all of a sudden, it's just a little way of kind of sweetly interacting together. But everything, even the words, even the sentence choices can be done in a creative way. But coming back to the routine of a householder, yes, there's routine, but try to find new ways of doing it. If you go out for a walk, don't do the same walk at the same time every day. Do something a little bit different. If you're cooking a meal, then cook it in a different way, or try a new recipe, try new foods, try a different cuisine, do something. But it's important, that which we cannot escape, then we should bring creativity into that world, because everything can be done in a way that's new and rewarding.
Master said as well, do everything you do, and this is quite a challenge, do it in a way that's never been done before. So cooking dal, making up a bed, whatever it might be, but to try to, and it's important. It isn't just creativity for its own sake, because it keeps our awareness, it keeps us aware on a higher level of existence. Again, Swami Kriyananda was always, he would always do things in different ways. An example is making coffee. In the first couple of years I knew him, I would go off and sometimes to his house with a group, and he would ask us to make him coffee. But he would always be changing. He said, no, I'm using these frozen coffee ice cubes now. No, I'm making it in this little new maker. No, I'm doing this now, that now. No, I'm doing a concentrate. And it was like he was trying to say, nothing needs to be done mindlessly. Everything can be done with bringing creativity. Another way of thinking of creativity as a householder is simply love. You can put your child to bed every night and say, okay, get in bed, brush your teeth. Did you do your homework? Okay, go to sleep. We'll see you in the morning. Or, Swami even talks about it, what his father would do in the new path. Swami's father, there were 3 brothers, of which Swami was one. When he would put them to bed at night, he would often put their heads at different parts of the bed and saying, tonight we're going to fly off to Africa, or tonight we're going here or there, but he would make it fun. And so, and it's especially important because children have such an innate sense of newness and fun about life. And I know when our son is grown now, but when we would put him to bed, we would read him stories sometimes, but oftentimes Jyotish would just make up stories to tell him, and they would be running, sequels, like they'd end and then he'd pick it up again the next night. And our son just loved it. And it was a fun thing. So,
And fun for me too.
right.
More fun than reading a book over and over.
And so, the challenge, when you look at the life of a householder, it can implode on you. Now we have to do this, now we have to do that. Or you can bring love into it and do it in a new way. Tonight, let's not sit at the same table we always sit at. Let's go sit somewhere else and sit in a different way and just have our meal in a different way. So just to keep life fresh. And a little goes a long way. And it doesn't take money. It doesn't take, all of those things. It's simply bringing love and the desire to make things be fresh and expressive and filled with joy. When you think about, we're using the words that are descriptions of God: joy, love, energy. All of these are aspects of creativity. And without all of them, it can become just a mind-born thing.
One of the people have asked, how does one ensure that she isn't being vague in the name of creativity? In other words, how to keep ourselves grounded in spite of being creative? Well, coming back to the question, so creativity is to try things in different ways, but then we should also look and say, was that an improvement? Or was it just something that was different for the sake of being different? So when Swami was making coffee in all those different ways, I think he was also asking himself, what method makes the best cup of coffee? I'll try new things, but I'm not going to continue just trying new things that deteriorate. So you get grounded in your creativity by asking, does this work? Does this improve? And most especially, we should say, does this help me in my relationship with the divine?
I see a question and I feel obliged, or it's on the chat, obliged to answer, from Gaurav Sharma, who's in New York now, and it's 12:15 in the morning. So we will honor your question. Again, it's about, I get a lot of creative ideas in meditation that they may seem a bit starry-eyed. What would you suggest? Well, that's where you could use practical advice. If you're thinking of an idea came for a new computer game that you want to invent or something like that, video game, then talk with people who do it. See, this is an idea. Do you think I can manifest this? And then put in, get the good advice to see if it really has practical implication. All of the great creative geniuses, you think of people like, well, in our generation, Elon Musk. I mean, brilliant, genius, creativity, changing the world in many ways. But he's also an engineer. So he knows what's practical and what will work and what won't. So don't just let it be vague, but grounded in reality. Just like if, for example, if Jyotish has an idea for a painting, if he just sat around and thought, oh, maybe the sky could be blue or little pink clouds, and nothing would ever be created. But if he really goes practically and gets some shots of nature that he thinks would work, make sure he has the paints, make sure he has just what he needs, the tools, make sure he has the time to do the painting. And if all those come together, then it can be a beautiful painting. So creative ideas standing on their own are like little ghosts in the room. You need to ground them in practical expression.
And generally speaking, try to do something that is 1 or 2 steps ahead. You don't jump from doing nothing in an area to a full-blown idea. It's a sequential evolution. There's one here that's important. What is the first steps towards creativity when feeling low or not in the right frame of mind? Well, a lot of times if there's no energy flowing, there will be not much creativity. In that case, don't worry so much about creativity, worry about getting the energy flowing. So go out and take a walk, do some postures, do some breathing exercises, get some oxygen, but do whatever you can to get some movement and get some energy flowing. And then once that energy is flowing, then you can begin to add in creative dimensions to it. But you can't sail a boat in new and creative directions if it's dead in the water.
There was a question that came in earlier too, that meditation can produce creativity, but certainly that isn't the primary goal. It's just a side effect, of course, but it's how you define creativity. If you define it as superconscious experience, then that is a primary goal of meditation. It doesn't necessarily mean it'll be art or music or anything, outward expression, but it's the goal of meditation is to uplift our consciousness and to unite it with a greater reality. And in that union with a greater reality, that's where creative expression comes from, because you see the infinite possibilities in life and in the world around us. So no, you could sit and in the autobiography, we read many examples of yogis that have sat in caves, for decades, and that's all they did was meditate. But in that they found union with God. So that was, once Swami tells the story of when he was in India in the 50s, late 50s, early 60s, he went to visit a disciple of Ramana Maharshi, Sri Rama Yogi. And he was a very, very high soul. Swami felt he was fully liberated, but he just had a very small ashram and very few disciples. And Swami said to him, but sir, you have so much to offer the world. Why do you just, essentially confine yourself to this little space and these few people? And Sri Rama Yogi just said, God has done what he wants to do through this body. And so that was his dharma. So no, creative expression in and of itself isn't that important, but the consciousness behind it is very important. Okay, so there's, let's see.
I'll read one from
Okay.
DT. My question is, what is the best spiritual way to get over a creative block or overcome feelings of self-doubt? Well, depends on what the area of creativity is, but sometimes, if you're doing art, I don't know if this is DT from Calcutta, but
It is.
yeah, she's a wonderful, wonderful artist. And so I'll answer it in terms of artistic expression. When you feel blocked for creativity, sometimes doing quick little exercises, little 5-minute exercises. So an artist could take 3 paints and paint little 5-minute exercises with just those three different colors of paints, and do 5 or 6 of those. So very quick little things that sometimes a big project, there are constraints on the amount of creativity because you think, oh, I have to make this good. And so I have to be a little bit safe. but do things that you don't have to be safe with. And it can break through. For a writer, write, if you're blocked, write a funny little 4-line poem that will get the juices going.
Now, someone asked a question, what is an affirmation we can use for creativity? And because I have Swami's book that we were reading from, Affirmations for Self-Healing, if you have the book or not, it's affirmation on inspiration, and it's pretty applicable. So the affirmation that Swami gives is, I hold my thoughts up to the calmness within. In calmness, I receive inspiration from my higher self. So I think that fits quite well. Daya and Keshava, you could, if people want that, it's affirmation number 35 on inspiration. You could send it out to people, but I'll just read it again. I hold my thoughts up to the calmness within. In calmness, I receive inspiration from my higher self. And that's the essence of creativity right there. Okay, so
Well, we're kind of
did we answer? Now,
coming toward
Abhishek
the
had a
end.
question. Did we answer Abhishek?
Yes, you
Yes.
did.
Oh,
have it.
okay.
Yeah.
By the way, I did want to say before we close, it's so nice to be in the Panchil ashram again, and we wish we could be there in person. But all of you are in our living room, so
Yes.
it's nice we're having Daya and Keshava lead pilgrimages everywhere. So now they've led you on a pilgrimage to Jyotish and Devi's living room.
Yeah.
So behind us, you can't see it too well, but it's a painting of Jyotish's called Pole Star. It's Master in a little boat going across the stormy sea, holding up a lantern. So, gosh, there's so much more we could say, but Daya and Keshava, how it's just about 9:30 now, or our time. It's 11 your time. So should we can keep going, or we should end? You tell us what
I
to
think
do.
we should end. I think we should
Okay.
end. Yeah.
We're getting good at lip reading.
Yes.
We're
Okay, I
so
don't know.
grateful. We're
With the
so
sound, but
grateful.
it was okay.
Oh,
Okay,
thank
well,
you. Thank you.
You're welcome. It's been a joy for us to be with you all, and we'll continue these in conversations. There'll be another one next month. I'm not
Next
sure.
month for Mahasamadhi. For Mahasamadhi, we'll
Okay, so
all
let's
be
close with
together. Okay.
we'll close with-
Mahasamadhi.
Oh, yes, we'll be together thank you, for the Mahasamadhi, March 7th. We'll be doing a wonderful
right.
broadcast with Jaya, who's is waiting to be able to go back to India. He'll join us, and we'll just have very nice things. We hope you can join us. We're going to get relics of Master from the beautiful little shrine that we have, and we'll do an arati to the different to the relics, symbolically doing an arati to Master. So that'll be March 7th, your time. It's probably, it'll be 10 o'clock in the morning on Sunday, March 7th. Yeah. So we hope you can join us.
Wonderful.
So let's close with the prayer. Heavenly Father, Divine Mother, friend, beloved God, great masters, Jesus Christ, Babaji Krishna, Lahiri Mahashaya, Swami Shri Yukteswar, beloved Guru, Paramahansa Yogananda, saints of all religions, humbly we bow to you all. O Divine Mother, source of all creation, we are your children. Let us see your creative, loving hand in everything. And may we be channels for your light, your love, your joy in everything that we do. Om Shanti, Shanti, Shanti.
God bless you all, and thank you for joining us, and we will see you again soon.
Yes, thank you. Thank you.